The Crew 2 Motorpass. I'm not in the game. Let's do that again. Awkward. The Crew 2 Motorpass. USB Tour West. Finished. Like, all those words made sense in my head, like, before I said them, and then when I said them, I feel like an idiot. Yeah, we've reached the end of the Motorpass here. I'm not done with it, but we'll finish it over the course of however long we're playing right now. And as you can see, we'll go through some of the, I think we did it at the beginning, but we'll unlock some more stuff, and then we'll talk about kind of how the Motorpass stuff kind of looks. So you can tell we're at the end because we've finished all of the little event thingies. We've unlocked all the challenges that are available to be had. And so I think a good place to start would just be to let's go over all of the events. Let's do so I've done a couple of them over the course of this last week of playing. I did the summit. There's the video of that should be, when you're watching this, maybe you'll also see that. Let's start from the beginning, and then we'll make our way through to the rest of these events. And then if we need to kind of double up on some of these to finish the Motorpass, then we will. But let's start at the beginning. Just to get a I haven't played the last week of the event, so I haven't gotten the chance to actually do the end, which is like a fun time. Get like a comprehensive look at everything that was in the Motorpass. I think based on the way that they release it, it feels like relatively sparse. So doing it all at once at the end, it's like there's like a lot of game available to play. Not that it's like dramatically more than was available in the game initially or anything, but I think it's just a significant amount of video game that's available now. If you played the Crew casually. So it's kind of a interesting dynamic where the pace at which they release it is kind of like a drip feed for people that play the game actively. Like if this is your primary video game, then it's like 2 races a week, and then you can like chip away at the summit, I guess, is the majority of the time that you spend on the game. But just in terms of raw content added, it's very little until like you kind of look at it at the end, and then it's like 10 weeks, 20 races or something like that, and then sometimes they double up on previously released events, but now in the context of whatever the seasonal event is, so it's kind of fun. And I guess if you haven't played the Crew, then it just represents like a lot of extra video game to play. Like I think over the course of the entirety of the season, it might just straight up double or triple the amount of content that was previous. Like if you haven't played the Crew at all at this point, there is a lot of the Crew available now. And so you can really just kind of dive in and do a lot of it all at once. And it just kind of feels like a really big video game. But if you play it in segments, then like I said, it kind of isn't as much as it might seem on the surface. So if somehow you're in the category of person that is coming into this kind of check out what's up in the Crew now, if you haven't played any of the seasons, or you just haven't played this particular season, then now is like a pretty meaty time to play. Or if somehow you're a player that's played the Crew core base game, whatever they call it, and then none of the post-launch content, then it is a lot of easily accessible post-launch content. And for the most part, the content that they offer, like the actual races and stuff like that, are just freely available. So in that way, it is incredibly convenient. I think, I could easily see them justifying putting it behind a premium or some kind of paywall. Like I think that's how, many other games would do it. But in a lot of ways, this is like a more modern games as service kind of hybrid game. I can see the case for, I don't think Ubisoft is going to do this anytime soon. They haven't done it with any of their games thus far, except for things that are like, make sense in the free-to-play space, like a battle royale or something. But if they wanted to make a free-to-play kind of game that is supported by a wide variety of maybe cosmetics or something, then I think the crew is building a strong case for that being the possibility. So kind of the general theme for these the US Speed Tour event so far is that you're driving from place to place, and then sometimes there's a special event that is just a race at the location that you're driving to. So as you can see, you travel to Yellowstone in this race, and then Yellowstone is the event that is in this location. I think is how that is kind of working out for a lot of these. And then more often than not, these events that are at the designated place are the repeated events. So there are races that were in the game previously, and then they're repackaged in a different context or in a different discipline. And so it's like a little bit fresh. And the particular context that they added in is that you want to be going fast. So just like a slightly different spin on the event, which again, if you're a for the crew player, then it kind of feels like more of the same, which I would say that I'm in that particular situation. But if you're kind of newer to the crew, then it might not be as repetitive to you or anything like that. Yeah, I would say that I have said many times that this particular type of season is kind of the exact thing that I would personally get into in the crew if it was available, and I think it is. Well, I think I've had that turn wider from the time. Oops. But I would say it is kind of like a frustrating adaptation of the system that they have laid in place in the crew, in that I think that they built the system around the multiple difficulty tiers that go on to unlock higher and higher level gear, which I just don't find particularly fun in a driving game, or maybe specifically this kind of game. I think it's like too involved with the system. And as someone that has played a bunch of modern video games that implement a gear system for seemingly no reason, it does seem like a system that is just specifically designed to eat up my time. And that's a little frustrating to experience firsthand. And you know, I think if you don't mind the gameplay loop, then at best you're just willing to tolerate it, but I think it is just not really the most engaging system in this particular game. And maybe a lot of that has to do with the fact that actually managing some of the gear and the drops that you get is a little frustrating in the crew, which is one thing that they have not changed, and I would imagine that they're just not going to change. And if there is like a significant change to the way that itemization works in the crew, that's going to come in the crew 3 or whatever subsequent game happens, or not at all, because I think I'm in the minority in thinking that it's annoying, and I think most people probably enjoy the really fast, easy dopamine hit that getting a purple or yellow piece of car gear gives you. I find that a little bit frustrating. I think as a racing game, I would prefer it if maybe there were just predefined cars and specs that I didn't really have to worry about too much. And then it was more about driving and racing and getting times and stuff, especially in this new content where these are basically all time trials. There's almost no one on the street, or I don't think there's been any other AI opponents or anything for any of the seasonal stuff that I can remember. And so, you know, I'm just kind of doing time trials against myself and a leaderboard. And then so adding this other abstracted layer is just a little silly. Because again, I think it makes sense in an RPG context where the actual gameplay is abstracted. Because, you know, like when you're playing like some kind of top-down role-playing game, you're like clicking on an ability that's activating on a button press and you're not doing anything, but in this particular context, you know, I am doing the driving. You know, the manual dexterity is in my hands. And so I feel like it doesn't really need a lot of that abstraction there. And speaking quite frankly, I think it just represents a really frustrating wall for newer players that maybe do want to get into it for the time trial component of the game. And so it just represents this ginormous time sink that they have to invest on a per car basis, which of course, you know, based on the current system is really fast, which is its own problem. But, you know, you have to spend X number of minutes or previously hours on a car to get it up to speed so you could actually compete in the time trial context or the leaderboard context, if that's what you want to do, because that's essentially what there is to do in this setting. And so I think one other part of it being a leaderboard based activity is that I feel like the ace difficulty is just a little redundant. So like every other event, you have multiple things that have higher recommended gear scores and then a much more aggressive and competitive time that you have to be shooting for to compete against. And I find that to be really annoying in this also gear-based context where, you know, like it's not a different race, especially without AI drivers. And so if you perform on easy or normal and you have a fast time, it's still going to be the same exact fast time in eights. So I feel like the system is so inflexible that it makes it so that experience is a bit confusing. Like I just don't understand why it is the way. I mean, you know, I know why it is the way it is because the rest of the game works like that. But, it's a little not cohesive in this particular setting. Which is, I feel like it's kind of interesting in its own way. You know, like the leaderboard grind is its own thing. You know, if you have a really intense time trial game, I don't need a bunch of other bells and whistles as long as the experience of, like, if it's a racing game, for instance, then as long as the racing is fun, then I would be willing to just do the time trial part of it. And so more and more this gear system just seems like a very manipulative carrot on a stick kind of thing that more and more games employ for, again, obvious reasons. Those reasons being they want you to spend 80 hours on their game instead of any less, or, you know, whatever the case may be. So some of these early ones, I have a ghost present. These are some of the ones that were earlier on in the season. I've already done them many times over because I did it on a week-by-week basis for some of these weeks. And so I have a relatively competitive time. Or, you know, it's not really super competitive. It's just I'm probably not going to beat it that easily. Or beating it is going to be more and more difficult because I, at least within my own capability, playing casually while also talking and not really fully remembering the track or anything like that. We kind of went for it. And I think based on the number of times that I've repeated a lot of the events, I think it just represents how little is actually added week to week, which again I'm finding to be not personally that compelling a package. Kind of brings us to like the overall impression of this one. I feel like I've played this one probably of all of the seasons that have come out. I think I've played this one the least, and I'll probably play them equally less in every subsequent season because I feel like we're kind of at the long tail for the crew, and I think it's enjoyable to play in like some pretty small doses, but I think it is, again, kind of maybe like outgrown whatever core system was in the game. And I would be at this point very much more interested in seeing how or if they decide to expand upon the crew, or what a newer version of the crew looks like, if it's just more of the same, if it's more different stuff. My brain is not functioning right now. I think cynically, I am very conscious of the fact that they will more than likely just keep making the game the way that it is, just because, you know, I played Riders Republic and it is very much like the crew. So I feel like that is a very clear indication that they have no interest in kind of exploring wholly different versions of this game, but instead just making it over and over and over again. And, you know, ideally, maybe in the future, slightly better every time. It was probably the goal. Okay, where were we? I think we were just doing this one. Let's do Glacier Park to Salt Lake. Yeah, so I think very specifically in the coming seasons, for however long, I am buying the season passes, which is, I'm willing to kind of go that far with the game. For as long as I end up having the season pass crew coin, or whatever, I forget what the currency is after. I think it's called crew coin. Yeah, I'm pretty committed to just checking them out every single time, but I think the way that we're going to do these going forward is I'm going to play at the very beginning and then at the very end to kind of check up on what's kind of going on. I'm in kind of a fun part of my life now where I can be really choosy about the racing games that I play in particular. You know, I would say that this is kind of exactly in the genre that I wouldn't mind playing, or that this is the kind of game that I wouldn't mind spending a lot of time in, but I happen to be in a situation where I get to choose what game that is exactly. Which I would say, based on the demographic split for the way that the summits look like they've been panning out, there's an overwhelming majority of PlayStation players that play the. I think the PlayStation is the lead console for the crew, or not, like development-wise, but player base-wise. And I think that a lot of that has to do with the fact that they don't have Forza Horizon. Which to me is just a clear indication of kind of where the mass appeal of the game, especially, I would say personally, the driving, the car driving is where this game shines. And the weakest parts of the game are every other vehicle that isn't a car. Not because they all handle particularly bad, but I think that they have just not made a particularly fun game with a lot of the other vehicles. I think they have a decently fun car racing game, and they've, in my brain, they established themselves as a car racing game in the Crew 1, but I guess I'm wrong. And the car racing is easily the strongest part of the package. And again, that's one of those things where, like this time next year, maybe we'll know about the Crew 3 if that's a game that exists. We'll just have a better picture of, do they focus in on the car stuff again, or do they go even further in on the multi-race discipline thing? Or, I think that the part of this that gets compelling in a multi-vehicle context is if you change vehicles on a semi-regular basis. I think it's really jarring when it happens. I think maybe they can hopefully they figure out a way to make something like that less jarring when it happens, because they also do it they do this particular thing that I'm explaining in Riders Republic. There are races where you switch from being on skis to being on a bike and then back to skis or something, whatever the race demands. It's really jarring when it happens. And I think maybe a game that's kind of centered around doing that would be kind of fun. Or just, you know, Diddy Kong Racing is one of the better kart racing games that has come out ever. And I think the crew is uniquely positioned to be able to offer something like that. Not that they would. I guess the issue is that they probably wouldn't lean into something just so drastically arcadey, which I think is kind of a shame. In my opinion, there's just, you know, there can not be too many of those kinds of games. Or at least where we're at right now, there's definitely not too many. And we could definitely use more. Or I guess maybe specifically, I would be happy with more. And not that this has to have, you know, like the ghost from Ghost Recon as a giant bobblehead popping out of the car, throwing a whatever the red shell, like a missile or something at another car. You know, that'd be kind of goofy, but then they could find a way. Something like Blur comes to mind as like a happy medium. But like, you know, imagine Blur, but then also you can be a plane or something to that effect, you know? I think that would be a lot of fun. I think there's ideas to explore here. And I think I mentioned this because I think that they just don't particularly do the more serious aspects of the game that well, at least compared to other things that I am able to play right now. I'm going to lose track if I keep talking while we do this. So what did we just do? I'm distracted because I have definitely done all these so many times. I just kind of want to keep moving. Okay, let's just do Salt Lake. How about that? How did you get in here, and why are you just running around? I think doing all of the Motorpass stuff at the end will also represent like an interesting way to approach the game, or just to play the season. So the season itself is not locked behind a paid Motorpass. It's just like many battle passes in other games. You just have the more rewards over the course of doing the Motorpass with the premium part of it. And I think I've mentioned this many times before, but the Motorpass in the crew is structured such that you pay for it with 80,000 crew credits, which I could not tell you how much actual money that is at the top or at this current moment, but however much actual money value it is, you get half of that back as a result of finishing the Motorpass. So let's say you spend exactly, God, I'm doing so bad. You spend exactly 80,000 to get the first Motorpass, or your first Motorpass. Then your next Motorpass will, you'll need to spend 40,000 Motorpass points, crew credits, to get the next one. Which is, I don't know how common a practice that is now that I say it out loud. I know some of the other games that I play that have battle passes do something where the return is like 100%. So assuming that it's a game that you play primarily or all the time or enough to get the battle pass, then one battle pass purchase means that as long as you play on a consistent basis, you basically have all of them. And then I think in the case of Call of Duty, for instance, you can get one battle pass and then you'll essentially have every subsequent battle pass, assuming that you get all 100 levels, but they offer many, many more cosmetics. So if you were really into the game, you're still very likely to make more purchases on top of the battle pass, which in some ways is the same in this kind of game, although again you get less return on the motor pass, which I think is an interesting change, I guess, keeping you in it. I feel like there's got to be some kind of really interesting GDC talk or something about the psychology of battle passes and these small intricacies that I'm describing right now. But maybe it's a little too deep for me right now. Oh, God. Nice to catch you live. Thank you. I'm glad you're here live. man. I understand that it's a really late hour, but hey, you know, this is when things happen for me, apparently. I think I've gotten most of the Motorpass related challenges for a lot of these earlier races, so I'm not going to be getting a lot of Motorpass progress, but that's okay right now. We'll definitely get some more Motorpass progress towards the end. So there's 50 tiers. One of these challenges gives you enough Motorpass progress to get 2 tiers per individual challenge. My brain is not functioning. I think that's, yeah, two tiers for 1 challenge. So realistically, I just have 5 challenges left to finish the Motorpass. That's just because I benefited from doing several days ahead of time. A daily gives you, or a set of dailies, so just 5 dailies, gives you 10 total Motorpass coins for the progress. And so each one of those will give you 1 Motorpass level, and then every individual challenge gives you 2. Or every non-daily Motorpass challenge gives you 2. So if you actually wait till the end to do the Motorpass, you'll have the most challenges available to you to do. So you're going to have a much easier time finishing it towards the end, with not only more races, but more challenges. I think so far, I've done every other Motorpass pretty up to on a week-by-week basis, and completed them all very comfortably. This is probably going to be the closest one, just because I've literally waited until the last week. I do find the Crew 2 Motorpass to also be bizarre compared to every other Motorpass that I have ever done, in that it's challenge based and not just regular XP based. So if all you do is play the crew and you just have one event that you like doing for whatever reason, there's a high likelihood that you will make no Motorpass progress despite playing for, you know, however long that you're playing in that duration of time, which is, again, kind of a strange phenomenon to me. Dude, coins. Okay. Petrol Underglow. Okay, yeah, well, we'll look at some of these. Let's do some more of these things. So there are some events that I have yet to do. So let's do. So we'll start here, and then we'll do all of the events again. And then some of these I, haven't really done that much of at all. So why don't I change the difficulty? I'll make it a little harder for myself, since I've already done this one. I did. It was part of the. Was it part of anything? I don't think it was part of it. I think I just did it. Unless it counted from my summit progress, which I don't think is the case. I think I just did it for fun because I was playing a little bit off stream.
3, 2, 1.
This is gonna be all relatively new. I did it once. I feel like I couldn't describe anything that it was on the track to you, so this will be mostly fresh. We're discovering this track together, which we didn't have to, but it's gotta be more fun, right? Yeah, and then just based on the previous Motorpasses, I would say that the Motorpass cosmetic items is my primary exposure to kind of the way that they've evolved paid content in the crew, because I just didn't really pay attention to a lot of it early on. And I think the stuff that they showed early was kind of interesting, but not necessarily always paying premium currency interesting. And I think this is one area where some bigger games, Call of Duty, since I've already mentioned it before, have a distinct advantage in that they have very notable, very iconic crossovers for a lot of their microtransactions or premium skin content. Premium content. The crew just does not benefit from having, or has not benefited from having thus far. You know, there's not a Fast and the Furious tie-in. There's not a... Oh God, what are we gonna cross over in the crew? There's not a Jurassic Park tie-in. That wouldn't make sense. They could make it make sense. There's not a Dune tie-in. You're not, you know... None of this stuff. Or, you know, there's actually just not even inter-game tie-in with other stuff in the Ubisoft catalog. And it's not for shortage of having racing games or similar types of games. There's no crossover with Steep or Riders Republic. There's not a Riders Republic themed thing. There's only been, to my knowledge, one Rabbids cosmetic item, or one full set, I think, if you can equip every item on like a single vehicle. They had like the horn and the car topper, and then I think they had like a windshield or something. But then nothing else. And Ubisoft's catalog is big, and I'm not saying that all of the crossovers would make sense, but I feel like that would be a level of cohesion that would not go unappreciated, I think. Like, where's my Monopoly skin or Uno car pack or car smoke for the crew 2? You know, who's taking the game so seriously where they wouldn't take a Uno card skin pack or something? Okay, you know, that wasn't so bad the second time. I got a yellow part for doing that. Wow. My loot mailbox is going to get completely full, I think, if I'm not careful. If I keep doing street events in particular. Okay, so here we go. Brand new event. St. George to Las Vegas. Where does this end? Seattle. Okay, so we're just going up and down the West Coast right now. US Speed Tour West. Yeah, so typically they've had 3 events in each series, so I will have one more after this, which will probably be Middle America. I don't know what this US Speed Tour Center, Midwest. Like, what are they gonna call it? How would they call it Center? That'd be so robotic. I think, yeah, I'm really frustrated personally by the fact that they really insist on you owning a bunch of vehicles, but not really doing anything with the majority of them. I think I've been thinking about this a lot. My ideal way that a car game like this would work is that, you know, if you insist on me using a bunch of vehicles for all of the different events, then I think that's fine. But I think that the game should provide them. It shouldn't be a big component for me to grind up and get 1,000,000 credits so I can buy the car pack with all the vehicles in it that I'm only going to use for those events because I don't like any of those vehicles, and if I did, then I would have already purchased them. But I digress. I think like having an identity in this kind of game is interesting or has merit, and so I think maybe the ideal way that this works in my head is that maybe this game exists and I just don't know it. Or maybe saying this out loud makes it so it's less likely to happen for one reason or another. I think it would be interesting if you picked a car that represented you the most. And and then that was your drive around car. But then when you got to events, then you would just like pick something else, assuming that the car that you picked doesn't work for that particular event. Like if I absolutely need an alpha, like a F1 open wheel car, and that's not the one I picked, then, you know, just switch me to that one for that race. But then when I get back out, put me in my Nissan Skyline or whatever the hell I picked. And then stop insisting that I have all 700 cars in the game for no reason. It's a weirdly decadent behavior that I wouldn't commit to in real life, and I feel like the fantasy of living it out in a video game is different because the cars don't occupy any physical space for me to exist in, and you know, kind of oogle the cars. So it's just like, oh yeah, I have this car, look at it in this menu. Doesn't hit the same as walking into my garage full of expensive vehicles. I don't know. I think it's one thing that's bugged me a bunch about this game. And I can't even sell the cars after. I think in the street category alone, I probably own like 90 vehicles. I use like 2 of them. And the rest of them are like a complete waste. And you compound that with, in this particular game where you have to gear them all up and stuff. Like, what are you guys doing? It's like a baffling situation. And you know, like right now, you know, we're just like shooting the shit, like whatever. I'll die mad about it. But I think if, you know, if these problems still exist in the Crew 3, I'm like, what is going on? Like, who wanted this? Do people want that? Am I a weirdo? I hope so. Yeah, I think I mentioned it a bunch of times, but I'm like relatively disconnected from the Crew 2 community at large. For not the smallest reason, but that I play on PC, which I feel like is definitely one of the smaller communities for the game. Oops. Whoa. A really gnarly hit. Jeez. I'm flailing at the end of this. Yeah, we played this whole time with no music. Not terrible. You know, not amazing. But, it's okay. Like one interesting thing that's changed in the Crew so far is that definitely from the first game to the second game, I've lost the sense that we're like driving across America or anything like that. I feel like we just do so little of it now that that part of the game is just not exciting as it once was. I kind of thought that part was like pretty cool in the Crew 1, but mostly because, you know, you had to physically, or you know, you had to drive from place to place as you finished a zone. And so it made the difference to be more highlighted in that game, and less so in this game. Which is like maybe on me, you know, I definitely fast travel a lot more in this than I did in the Crew 1. It's really jarring if there's no one here. I didn't complete any events or things. All right, let's move on. The strip. It's just gonna be the South Strip in a time trial race. By golly, it is. Yeah, I think if the game was maybe a little different, or like, I feel like Destiny is like a pretty hot topic in this kind of conversation because they're actively removing content that is available, but on some level, I feel like I kind of get it. Especially if kind of like what they do is take it out and then revamp it and then put it back in or something, or put it in a sense in a place where it makes sense in the context of a season or a bigger narrative kind of thing that they're doing, or even if it doesn't and they're just, you know, cycling content. So there's a specific set of things that are active. I feel like that's I understand how they got there. Because, like, you know, this particular race, I've done this particular race 100 times or something. And I think at the very least, like, kind of trying to come up with a way to do this particular race in a newer way that makes more sense in the current thing, or even in a different discipline. You know, I've got a low bar right now for the way that the crew could integrate some of this content, instead of just me doing this race again. Oh right, this is gonna get full. I got a Motorpass reward. Ooh, crew credits. So yeah, they do a fun thing in this where, oh, I got another thing. Oh, I got another thing. I thought that was gonna be, what, one? That was multiple. We're almost done. Okay, let's keep going. I'm just doing this on accident at this point. Golden Hill, Las Vegas to Golden Hills. Boy, this is gonna be off-road, isn't it? Yeah, you know, I think in general when what's that game? Riders Republic comes out and is essentially a lot like Steve, but with slightly different story wrappings and more and it's somehow loot focused in the exact way that I said I don't want. I feel like there's a little bit more apathy towards that game because it's not a driving game, and so I care about it a little less. And so, you know, when they do it with a driving game, I'm like, man, that's because I selfishly want a driving game to just be about driving. But again, I think a lot of that comes from the fact that I am very disconnected from whatever group of people actually plays this game. And for all I know, they're really into all of the stuff that the crew has. In which case, you know, more power to them. Yeah, I'm definitely much more conscious of loot games and how prevalent they are in kind of modern AAA games, just because, you know, like I play an actual MMO, so I get it. But look across, and every major video game that's come out in the last 5 years has a lot of the same stuff. I'm like, I understand why it's in an MMO, and it's because those are designed for me to pay by the hour in some regard. And so when the same exact thing is in just a regular old AAA video game, like a single player game especially, then I'm like, ugh. Come on, guys. Ooh. Ooh. Those like tight little zigzag turns are kind of hairy in this. So I'm definitely not as prepared to actually do that very fine movement. I don't know if I talked about it when they made the change for the gear and the crew, but I find it particularly annoying that the crew has the gear system that it has because of how they've changed it so drastically since it was originally made. And so particularly at the end of the gear curve, like when you have a car that's at max level in the crew for one particular category, then you're basically done gearing because you gear for the category, not the car anymore. So once you get to 280 on a street car or whatever, then every single part that drops forever for the rest of the time is going to be 280, making the gear part for every car in that category irrelevant. And to me, making that change was the clear admission that like we wanted to make it so you took as long as possible to get every car to max gear, but you caught us in our bullshit, and now we're gonna change it, but not really. We're gonna change it enough so you feel satisfied with it, but not so much that we're taking it out because it's stupid. Oh boy, this is gonna be just like a race. I got a yellow part. Always happy to get a yellow part for doing a thing on easy. Wonder how much gear rarity I need to just guarantee those parts to be yellow every golden? Not yellow? What is up with the video game. I think this is like undoubtedly a track that I've already done. I just happen to not recognize it in this case. I didn't do this one a billion times. I probably only did it the 3 times that you need to or whatever. The diegetic music stopped. Yeah, see, like, look at this. I don't personally have a problem with the fact that there's no one else on the track, but in like a broad sense, this is essentially what every race is anyway. You know, like, I'm just kind of competing for a faster time on the track, and then so in that, I feel like the most pure version of this experience is just to like fuck the difficulty after the beginning. You know, who cares? Who cares about the other AI drivers? You know, they're not who I'm like racing against after a certain point, which is pretty much when I finish the main campaign of the game. I am competing on the leaderboard at that point. You know, I'm not going to get a better sense of competition than when I'm playing against the leaderboard. And in that way, I just am saying that I wish every game was Trackmania, which is, funnily enough, another Ubisoft property, so I feel like they should integrate it more. But I think if this is where you end up with your game, it would probably just... You'd probably just be able to build a more compelling experience around it if you were just very plainly like, we're going to do time trials. Or, you know, we'll like do the story races with AI drivers for funsies, because it's what, you know, normal people probably like. But once you get beyond that, you know, you play on hard, you're playing in a time trial. Damn, no challenge. Okay. Let's keep on going. Almost at 100%. What did I just do? This one, right? Golden Hills. Golden Hills to LA. Okay, and then I did some of these other ones in the video for the summit this week, which again you can check out soon. I think the video should probably be literally uploading now or something like that. So why don't we just do these last two tracks and then we'll hammer out the rest of the Motorpass. And hammering out the Motorpass might mean doing those other courses for fun. Every week, one of the challenges is pretty consistently basically just beat the track on ace and get the ace time. And so in that way, I find it to be quite redundant and a little not as elegant as it could be. I mean, I guess on some level, like, you can offer a Motorpass reward and then just have the ace thing. You know, my eye is set on cohesive gameplay experiences, and at least in the Motorpass context, it's a little funny. Oh, you know, this one was definitely in the summit, but it was like spookified. Which is, yo, the other thing I want to talk about, dude. Why? I'm just gonna be pissy about like everything in the game. Why can't I do like the Motorpass stuff in the summit? Like, why is the progress for that or the completion for that separate? Because they're both, especially in this particular case. I'm pretty sure it's the case in this, because it more often than not is the case that it's not even cross-discipline. Like, the thing that's in the summit right now is just street cars, but there's fog, and so it's vastly different. Not really, but I have to do it twice, or, you know, I have to do it extra times for actual completion progress, because for whatever reason doing it in the summit, even though it's the same race and I still did it, doesn't count as completion for the event. Just in general.
3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3
just find so silly, which, you know, also means that even though this race is in the summit, because the differentiator is that spooky mist and camera shenanigans, doing it here and then getting a good time does not mean I get a good summit time, which is silly because they're the same thing and it should be the same thing, right? I'm sure there's like a really stupid technical reason, or, you know, I don't know, I'm not saying like whoever made it is stupid, but it's like a annoying, non-simple reason that that's the case, and it's so silly. Oh. Okay. No motor pass for that one. It's really jarring that there's no one here. Like no people. Kind of want it to be like some Tour de France shenanigans where there's just a mess of people on the side, especially for these ones where it turns it into a closed track. You know, like where are the homies at? I know you probably wouldn't want them there for realsies because, you know, like hitting them would be just the biggest nightmare, but you know, come on. We're like having fun. They know that like if they stand on the side with their cell phone, they're gonna like a hot clip where I'm drifting and they'll be like, oh my God, I was there. On their, you know, I don't know if they have a fake social media system in this game, but it would be fun. Like my book, my crew, Motor Nation. Is Motor Nation like a magazine? I feel like oh, you know, I think this is also one of the things that's in the summit. They're both in the summit. I've been bamboozled. That means I lied. The ones that are there, I didn't do in the summit, and I just did them off stream. And you're never gonna see them ever again. No, we'll do this more intelligently for the next season, okay? I have plans. I don't have plans, but I have ideas, at least. Hell yeah, drifting. I feel like in the future for the crew, I should just make a highlight reel of all of the events and then just yammer on over them or something commentary style. It's like, you know, like what's happening right now? We're doing the races. Oh, what if for like the next season we do like a long play, like no commentary? Would that be fun? I could definitely do that. We'll do like every event, no commentary. And then I'll just have it in like really well packaged videos or whatever. like every video is just gonna be me talking about how I want to make a long play channel, and then I never do it until one day I do it. Or if I do like Motorpass highlights, where we just go through all of the things that are in the Motorpass, and then every event on every difficulty. Am I willing to commit to that? Shit. I'm making work for myself. Dude, the diegetic music came back. There you go. Let's do it. Motor Nation. Motor Stars. What'd I get? Oh, parts. Great. I got green cloud. We're almost done. I got 3 levels left to get. Okay. So let's just hammer this out. Win stage 4. I'll probably do that. And then, I don't know. Let's see what happens. Stage 4 West or Canyon Special. Is this Canyon Special? It just says Special. Oh, Canyon Special. Oh, okay. Let's do this one. Let's do it on hard. He's beating me! He's beating me! Oh, okay, no, I'm fine. I whiffed that one. Happening. No whip right there. Oh, that's okay. I'm doing a bad job. Oops. Oops. I'm doing bad. I'm throwing right now. Oh snap, I think that's it. I think we done it. Okay, so now that we're done, let's take a look at the completed Motorpass. And then, yeah, we did it. 7 days remain, easy. Who was worried? Not me. Dude, an hour of overall gameplay, oops. Okay, so let's go through the rest of the this whole Motorpass in its entirety. I think that, I've come to this game a little bit late, so I don't really know the value of like how much 80,000 crew credits really gets you. But let's look through what's here. So we got this car, got a car. You can look at some data. I don't personally, I'm not gonna write anything down, but I think that they offer a bunch of different stuff. Am I not hearing it? I don't know. I think for some of these they offer a set, but I find that like they're not always the best, most cohesive sets ever. And so it's not always the most exciting thing to end up getting. Or I guess Specifically, it doesn't quite get the mileage that you would expect it to get. Especially since a lot of the early on cosmetics that they showed are like neon, super motion graphic-y, particle effect, trails, Tron car stuff. And then, you know, I don't think everything needs to be that, but I think most of the stuff should be on that level, or at least I kind of wish that it was on that level, so that you don't just get like fancy cars for some of this. Or, you know, if you do get weird angled smoke, then for it to be rare is a little interesting, because then, you know, my bar for the quality of this stuff should be crazy weird particle effect stuff. Tron car every time. Angled underglow to go with the smoke. Crew credits. I think I mentioned this before, but the crew credits are distributed such where you get a bulk of them. So the crew, the motor pass is 80,000 crew credits, I mentioned before, but you're going to get 40,000 back as a result of completing the entirety of the battle pass, assuming that you buy it. You get some amount of crew credits through the duration for free if you don't buy it, and you can probably start toggling them up as we go. You might get maybe 10,000 if I had to guess. But you'll get some small amount, and then you'll get 40,000 back. And I think the majority of them are, you get a big chunk early on, and then you get a big chunk of it later on. So really reward the people that finish the entirety of the motor pass instead of just early on or something. So especially if you end up not finishing it for whatever reason and you want to top it off with crew credits, it's even a more frustrating purchase the closer to the end you are, I guess. Real tricky thing to pay to get the motor pass and then also pay to finish it, you know? A little bit of a frustrating deal, but hey, you're the one playing, you're the one making the decisions. Yeah, you know, I don't think that these tires in particular look bad, but again, my bar is like Tron neon glow-in-the-dark tires or something like that, and so not as exciting, not exactly what I would want. And then, you know, like this kind of thing, I think if the tone of the game was a little bit different, then smaller parts like this would be more interesting, or, you know, if we were still playing Need for Speed Underground 2, then maybe. But because the aesthetic for the game is a little bit more dramatic, I think that smaller parts and smaller touches like this are not as big of a deal as you might think. Like, even just compared to the window treatment thing that I have, like the pulsing orange, this like carbon fiber roof thing is just is boring by comparison, and putting them in like a similar kind of thing, like ostensibly paying money for something like that, is a little frustrating. Or, you know, green, I mean common, so, you know, I can't be, yeah. I don't know why those things aren't rendering. It's a little frustrating. Yeah, so you can kind of notice, I think some of these were in a set. Hot petrol tire, petrol underglow, which just simulates like smoke coming off of the whatever. And then petrol, yeah, right here. This is the big chunk of crew credits towards the end, 20,000. It's half of the value of crew credits in particular that you're gonna get. And petrol nitro. So as a full set, you know, it's like kind of whatever, I would say. Maybe it's suited for particular cars. But even the design itself, I would say, is like pretty understated. And if I was bought into a lot of the crew credit stuff early on and ended up with one of those neon glow geometric pattern smoke that's bright green, none of this stuff beats it. And so I think that's a little bit of a weird situation. You know, I think one of your small goals is probably to outdo the stuff that came before it in the motor pass, so that you're constantly one-upping yourself. And it probably gets a little bit more complicated the longer that this goes on, but I think that's kind of like one of the considerations. Yeah, maybe any, like as a big package, a lot of this stuff is like pretty worthwhile in terms of the crew credit spend, but if I am into these because I got them, then instead of being into them and being excited about getting the motor pass, to get petrol nitro You know, it's like a tough situation. Shockwave smoke. I think this is the one that I kind of saw that was like a little funny. Like I think that I understand like what I'm actually getting. It's just the way that it's displayed, I feel like doesn't convey quite what the design shows, which is kind of funny. Then the American Petrol outfit for the American Petrol group of other things that's in the Motorpass. So there you go. That's the Motorpass done. That's the crew. Season 3, episode 2 done. And then yeah, I think it's still available for now 6 days. Whoa, we moved into the 6th day. Yeah, I think this is par for the course for the other season, but again, I don't think anything in this is particularly like super exciting. I'm not like you need to get this Motorpass so you can get any one of these things really. I think if you're an active player, then the Motorpass purchase makes sense if you're playing actively, or you know, probably makes sense. But if you're somehow a new player or a newer player coming to the crew, then you know, you probably might not have a lot of these cosmetic things, so maybe it's a little bit compelling in that regard. But I would say that take a look, and then also take note of what's free, and then you know, you'll probably be able to make your own informed decision. Let's see. Oh yeah, look at that. Lots of stuff on the free thing. Okay, there you go. The Crew 2. We did it. I'll see you next time.